Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And while you're at it, shoot over to the Facebook fan group Titans of Podcasts and Wrestling, where you could find all sorts of podcasts, news, rumors, everything about the world of professional wrestling. Check it out today, the Titans of Podcasts and Wrestling. And if you are sick and tired of paying $60 to $100 every year to get the newest, latest, greatest wrestling video game, stop wasting your money. Go over to Wrestler Unstoppable, also found on Facebook, where you can play totally free, create your own wrestler, join companies, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, everything that goes on in the world of professional wrestling, all built into this game for free on Facebook. Check it out today. Today we're coming to you with a recorded episode instead of our normal going live episode that we normally do on Saturday night. I will be away all weekend. I wanted to get something out to you guys ahead of the big weekend coming up. We have SummerSlam weekend, we have NXT Takeover, Brooklyn 3, we have news galore, and I want to make sure we get to all of that before the weekend. I don't want to go away for the weekend and not be able to get you guys the latest news. While we're at talking about all this other stuff, don't forget to shoot over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/FroWrestlingPodcast. Become a Patreon member of the Fro Wrestling Podcast family. Hey, huge shout out to Harold in St. Louis. Harold's my buddy. I'm hoping to get him onto an episode at some time in the near future. If you want to become a member of the Fro Wrestling Podcast family, joining Harold on the list, shoot over to patreon.com/FroWrestlingPodcast today. Tonight is a big deal. The NXT Takeover card is going to be stacked, and you know, it's not that some people are like, oh, there's only 5 matches or whatever. I get that. Yeah, we're not talking about SummerSlam itself here. We're talking about a card that has all the talents that people have been clamoring for all year on the NXT roster, all the people involved in their biggest storylines, and I actually think the show looks really good. I'm going to give you a match card rundown and give you some of my thoughts on what I think is going to happen, and we'll go from there, and then we'll hit all the other news and whatnot. With TakeOver, though, Johnny Gargano finally making a triumphant return to the wrestling after the attack, after Tommaso Ciampa turned on him, put him right into a feud with Andrade Almas. I think that this is a situation where you're trying to launch Johnny Gargano as a singles star, and I think that we see him pick up the win in his essentially, I don't want to say pay-per-view debut, but his first big match card debut at NXT TakeOver. The Aleister Black versus Hideo Itami match is one that intrigues me, because I think that Aleister Black is somebody who has only recently emerged. He's got a huge following already, and he hasn't really been on the roster that long. Hideo Itami, a lot of money from WWE invested in him. He was injury prone for the first couple years being in WWE, and now has kind of solidified himself as a heel. And the interesting thing about this matchup is, do you really want to bury the new heel that you created, or do you want to push the new face that you created? And it's really, it's a challenge for me when I'm thinking about who's going to win this match. I think Aleister Black is going to come out on top, but I would not be surprised to see Hideo Itami pick up the win here. This is a tough booking situation. I don't think they lose no matter who they push, but it'll be interesting to see where their perspective is. One of the matches I hate to say this because I don't want to knock either of the other two matches, but the match that I'm probably looking forward to the most is the Authors of Pain taking on Sanity for the NXT Tag Team Championship. The Authors of Pain have been relatively unstoppable until they ran into Sanity, and I think that this is the time where Sanity finally gets some gold in their stable. I think Sanity picks up the win and defeats the Authors of Pain. If it doesn't happen, I won't be upset about that. I think the Authors of Pain are doing a great job with the Tag Team Championship, but you gotta wonder how long someone like Eric Young wants to stay on the NXT roster. I'm not saying he's not loving what he's doing there, but he's somebody who really would do well on the main roster, and the only way that happens is if he gets some kind of successful run on the NXT roster. Now, I don't know which members of Sanity are going to be competing for the belts. They've said things in the past, but they can always change things up. I predict that Sanity walks out as the new NXT Tag Team Champions, though I would not be surprised if I'm completely wrong about that. The other two matches I was speaking of, Asuka defending the NXT Women's Championship against Ember Moon. Great matchup. I think this is one that's been boiling for months. I think with Ember Moon getting hurt earlier in the year, I think she probably was slated to win the championship prior to her injury. This situation allows for her to get back into the women's championship picture, and I actually think, and I hate to say it because I love that Asuka's got this streak going on, but WWE's notorious for once somebody breaks a record, taking the opportunity away from them. And what I mean by that is, this week it was announced that Asuka is the longest reigning women's champion under the WWE banner in history. She passed Rockin' Robin's 500 and whatever day record, and now she is the longest women's champion of all time. I know a lot of people are like, oh, what about Fabulous Moolah? I saw some arguing and banter back and forth on different websites this week from people complaining that Moolah wasn't recognized. But Moolah's reign was during an era where there really weren't a lot of female wrestlers, and Moolah would train a lot of her opponents for different territories. WWE never acknowledged her as a 28 or 30 year of their champion. They didn't have a women's championship for as long as her reign supposedly ran for. She was NWA women's champion for an extended period of time, and she was a women's champion for various other promotions throughout history, but there wasn't like one unifying organization that she held a championship for 30 years. So that was kind of more kayfabe than it was fact. WWE doesn't even acknowledge her reign being that long anymore. So this Asuka having this reign, this historic reign, it has to come to an end at some point. So I think one of two things happens here. I actually my prediction is Ember Moon takes the NXT Women's Championship tonight and hands Asuka her first defeat. However, it's not what I would like to see them do. I'd like to let them keep the belt on Asuka until she comes to the main roster and have her vacated. How much more respect would it be for that championship for the champion to have never been defeated? It would be a record that would be very hard to ever pass up. But I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think Ember Moon walks out the women's champion tonight. And Bobby Roode defending the NXT World Championship against Drew McIntyre. This is a tough one for me. I would not be surprised to see Roderick Strong added to the match at the last minute. I think that's a terrible idea. I think you need to keep this match nice and clean between the two wrestlers. So, if they add anyone to the match, I think Bobby Roode retains. However, if it stays one-on-one, I think Drew McIntyre walks out with the NXT Championship, which I think would be the right thing to do for the feud and things going forward. I want to address some of the news for the week. So first off, we'll start off with GFW Destination X, actually loaded with surprises. I will throw out one spoiler at the end of that, and then we'll get to the other news. So at Destination X, it played this past Thursday. If you haven't seen it, check it out on their page or go to YouTube. So you had a former Knockout returning. Taryn Terrell returns, attacks Gail Kim. Gail Kim's supposed to be, wrestling Sienna, one of her last matches, and then she gets attacked by Taryn Terrell. I think it's a good return. It's somebody that Gail Kim has a history with, and if she's going to be retiring at the end of the year, I think it makes for great television going forward. We find out that, Bruce Pritchard comes out to address the Alberto El Patron thing, letting everybody know that he's been stripped of the GFW title. As he's doing that, he's talking about how he's going to return the championship to Bobby Lashley, but he gets interrupted by Jim Cornette returning to the company. And Jim Cornette, first off, fires Bruce Pritchard, which I found thoroughly hilarious. And then he announces his World Championship plans. He's going to have a 20-man gauntlet match the next week, and it will crown a new champion. We find out throughout the show different people who will be added to that match. Eli Drake, Chris Adonis, Johnny Mundo, who makes his debut for the company the coming week. People like that. So the championship was put in a good position for the next week. I thought they should have done something at Destination X with the world title. Instead, you had a pay-per-view level show with no world championship match. I think that's a little bit of a miss by them. The X Division ladder match, great match, back and forth. These guys, I think sometimes the smaller cruiserweight wrestlers don't get all the respect they deserve. Sanjay Dutt, retains the championship, defeats Trevor Lee in just a completely physical match. Petey Williams makes his return to the company, makes a save during the match. It was really good action, back and forth. If you were an X Division fan, this made you feel like the old-fashioned X Division matches that NXT, or TNA, I should say, was famous for in its earlier heyday. Bobby Lashley takes on Matt Sydal in what would turn out to be the main event of the show. A little shocking. I expected Bobby Lashley to tear Sydal apart. And in the end, Matt Sydal wins the match and becomes #1 contender to the World Championship after a quick roll-up from behind on Bobby Lashley. I didn't expect that. I actually thought Lashley would win because he's been a firm fixture in the World Championship picture for quite a long time. But, depending on what his plans are going forward, and I'm going to address those in just a moment, this actually made a lot of sense if you're trying to push a new star into that world championship stratosphere. They do show a video of John Hennigan, Johnny Mundo, Johnny Nitro, who now will become Johnny Impact, who will be debuting at the next week's show. So that leads us into our spoiler alert. So here's the thing. If you don't want to know what happened, tune out for the next 20 seconds, but there is a new GFW World Heavyweight Champion crowned at the tapings that will air on August 24th, and that is Eli Drake, who was forced to enter the gauntlet at number 1. Eddie Edwards entered at number 2, and the two of them outlasted the entire field to end up being the final two in the ring, and Eli Drake walks out the new Global Force Wrestling World Champion. The tapings for the following week, you find out that Bobby Lashley is quitting Impact Wrestling, and he wants his last match to be against Moose. They end the show that way, the taping for that way. I believe that episode airs September 7th. And the thing is, I don't know if this is kayfabe and he's not really leaving, he's just taking a short hiatus, or if he really is done with Impact Wrestling because he wants to focus on his mixed martial arts career and potentially go back to WWE at some point. But if you are not a huge spoiler fan, hopefully you didn't listen to anything I just said. I'm going to get to the rest of the news and rumors from around the wrestling world because it is a crazy, crazy week. Always is heading into SummerSlam week, and then we'll get into our SummerSlam predictions. So, Shelton Benjamin. The breaking news was Shelton Benjamin has officially signed with World Wrestling Entertainment. He'll be returning to the company shortly. That's huge. He's a good get. The problem I have, and I've said this on previous episodes, is that they are so star-stacked at the top of the roster. I feel like he'll get pigeonholed into the mid-card, which I think is a horrible idea for him. I don't see any way for him to compete for a world championship on Raw. The guys are just too big. And over on SmackDown, I think he could put on some great matches with the likes of AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, things like that. And I think that puts him in a position to be a world championship contender. But at his age, I doubt that WWE will ever give him that opportunity. And it's almost like they missed the boat. There was a time where he would have been believable as the WWE champion, and now I don't think that they are going to be able to take somebody at his age and his stage of his career and make him world championship contender. And I just wonder sometimes how different things would be if Shelton Benjamin was ever given a real shot. As athletic and amazing as he is in the ring, he just never got that big break. Stars in New York City. It's SummerSlam weekend, and news broke that both Adam Cole, Trent Seven, and Pete Dunne were all with the NXT crew in New York City for TakeOver. So any of the three or all of the three may appear on the TakeOver card. I don't expect Cole to go to the main roster right away, so I would expect him to show up at TakeOver tonight. But the big news, the monstrous news, photo taken at the Texas airport, The Undertaker is on his way to New York City. What does that mean? It was asked to Jim Ross on his podcast about what that means, and Jim Ross was very clear. The Undertaker, in his opinion, The Undertaker is not retired. He's healthy, he's training, he's in shape, and he can get in the ring and wrestle anytime he wants. It makes you wonder, Roman Reigns, as unbeatable as he's been in most situations for the last couple years, is this a situation where the reason Reigns doesn't defeat Brock Lesnar is because he's going to get jumped by the returning Undertaker? Look, I know The Undertaker said if he got his surgery, he was done with the business, and he did the whole thing with the coat and the gloves and everything in the ring. I don't know how you get a better send-off than what he got at WrestleMania, but I'm not going to lie to you, for diehard wrestling fans, to see The Undertaker return and attack Roman Reigns would be absolute money. It's almost like when he lost to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, he came back for the SummerSlam match. This feels very similar. That doesn't mean he's going to come back for a program with Roman Reigns, but it would be interesting to see him even the score with Roman Reigns by costing him the WWE Championship. 6-man tag team match has been added to SummerSlam, so we were all frustrated that when the Revival got hurt, the Hardys were off the card, and we were wondering what the heck was going on with the Intercontinental Championship, taking a back seat, not even being on the pay-per-view. Well, we have our answer now. Miz and the Miztourage are going to take on the Hardys and their tag team partner, Jason Jordan, who is getting a pretty substantial push here as Kurt Angle's kayfabe, illegitimate son. And that match has been added to the kickoff show. So I'm just happy to see that the Hardys have been added to the show in any fashion, because I think, let's face it, they're one of the biggest draws in the company. They deserve to be there at one of the biggest shows, debatably the second biggest show of the year. D'Angelo Dinero. So he's been with Impact Wrestling for quite a while now, off and on for the last 7 years, and he apparently has left Impact Wrestling. Now, for me, he has not wrestled a meaningful match in Impact since, I want to say, 2014. He's been doing commentary for the most part. His wrestling career has not stopped. He still wrestles on the independent scene in Ohio Valley and stuff on occasion. I would love to see him make a return to WWE. I think he was a talent that they let go way too quickly. He was on the old, revived ECW brand. Never really got a chance to be the star that his character easily could be. I love his in-ring work. I think he's a ring technician, great wrestler, and I would love to see him come back to WWE, especially in the NXT brand. He's a familiar face, but not so familiar to the mainstream audience that he wouldn't be a fresh face. So I think that would be a great thing for him. If not, I wouldn't be surprised. He has a lot of things going on outside the world of professional wrestling, but I just think it's a missed opportunity if they don't at least make an overture to bring him back. There's a little bit of an update on Ric Flair, how long he's going to be in the hospital. The projections right now are that he will be in the hospital for up to a month, assuming he makes the recovery that everybody is anticipating and hoping that he does. As always, prayers and well wishes out to Ric Flair and his entire family. We want him to make a speedy recovery for someone who has made such a contribution to the sport. He's got fans all over the world that are pulling for him. And then moving on, Tyrus. Tyrus is the last tidbit of news I want to get to before the SummerSlam predictions. Made a bold statement this week. He would not show up at the GFW tapings because he feels like his character has been buried and not been used in any substantial way for months. And I agree with him. You got a big monster like Tyrus. It's kind of like WWE. They didn't do anything with him either. The Tons of Funk thing was fun, but it was a waste of his character. He easily could have had a great high-profile feud with Big Show or anybody, and instead they buried him on the roster and put him into a tag team that was more of a comedic act than anything serious. And now it's like it's happening again in Global Force Wrestling. So it's kind of messed up, but good thing for him that he decided not to take that, and he's just not going to be at the show. All right, we're going to run down the SummerSlam show with our predictions, and hopefully this card is huge and stacked and looks like it's going to be a great show. I unfortunately will not see the card live. Like I said, I'll be away all weekend. I won't see Takeover or SummerSlam. I'll have to check those out Monday night when I get back and pack in a Raw all in one evening. But the Hardys and Jason Jordan taking on The Miz and The Miztourage. For me, honestly, I think that the Miztourage are going to pick up the win here in some shady way. It doesn't hurt the Hardys for them to lose or Jason Jordan's push. I would love to see this be some kind of fuel for a Jordan versus The Miz title match coming up at the next pay-per-view. I think that's what they're working towards, and we'll have to keep our eyes on that. But that's my prediction. The Miz and Miztourage pick up the win here. The Big Show versus Big Cass. Big Cass, the heavy betting favorite. I agree with that. I think that Enzo being in the shark cage above the ring is going to somehow cost the Big Show the match. Whether he turns heel and rejoins Cass or his babyface efforts go awry and it doesn't work out, he ends up helping inadvertently Big Cass win the match. Big Cass should win this match and defeat the Big Show. In the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match, The New Day take on the Usos. This match, I'll be honest with you, it feels old already. I know they haven't had a ton of matches, but they've had enough of them that I'm tired of seeing these two teams in the ring. I actually predict that the New Day are going to retain their championships just because the Usos had such a long run with them. And I don't think that the Usos are the ones to take the titles off the New Day. Not with their historic Raw Tag Team Championship run. You can't take away the titles as soon as they got them on SmackDown when you had them run for so long on Raw. I just don't see that happening. So I project that the New Day will retain the championship here. Finn Balor versus Bray Wyatt. I think we see the Demon character come out. The Demon character is not going to lose. Finn Balor is going to bring that character to the ring. It's going to be the perfect yin to Bray Wyatt's yang, and we're going to see Finn Balor, the Demon King, pick up the win over Bray Wyatt. The feud will not end there. If I was booking the Balor Club and the Wyatt family would have a throwdown. Since SmackDown's doing absolutely nothing with Harper and Rowan anyways, I think it only makes sense. And when you don't see Gallows and Anderson anywhere on the card or Harper and Rowan anywhere on the card, I think it makes a lot of sense to have interference from all four of those men in this match. That's what I would do. Randy Orton versus Rusev. I'm really conflicted with this. Randy Orton gets that awesome win over Jinder Mahal on SmackDown in the non-title match. And now he's going against Rusev, who really hasn't been anything of a major factor for quite a long time. And so I'm not sure who wins this. I think Randy Orton would be the easy choice, but I don't think they're going to go that route. Rusev just lost to John Cena. He loses again, and you might as well make him a permanent mid-carder because he can't beat anybody who's at World Championship level. If you ever want to give him a shot to be in a main event, he has to get a win somewhere. I think it comes here. Rusev is going to defeat Randy Orton. John Cena versus Baron Corbin is a perplexing match for me. John Cena, probably, the rumor is he's leaving SmackDown to go to Raw permanently after the show. I have a problem with him winning the match if that's the case, because all it does is bury Baron Corbin. Now, if Baron Corbin really does have the backstage heat that's been reported all week, then I see why they would do that. I just don't like the booking in that situation. I think it's a horrible idea to bury any of your young talent. Baron Corbin is he's so much younger than a lot of the other competitors on the show. I think it's a bad idea to bury him so quickly. I don't want to see him turn into the next Wade Barrett, who had so much going for them, and then they lose to John Cena and they don't get the same push ever again in their WWE career. I don't care what Baron Corbin's done on Twitter this week, which seems to be the fuel of all the frustration with him. He deserves to be higher on the card, and I think he should defeat John Cena. Whether it's clean or not is irrelevant. I think he should defeat John Cena either way. The United States Championship match, AJ Styles, I project, will retain over Kevin Owens. I don't see any sense in giving the championship back to Kevin Owens. I actually would like to see Kevin Owens move on to become a world championship contender again. I have AJ as well, but I think AJ will get that opportunity at WrestleMania, whereas Kevin Owens, I think, needs to be in a high-profile feud prior to Mania to keep his momentum going. So I feel like this match has been done to death already too. I project AJ Styles wins and retains his championship. Naomi versus Natalya. This match is one that people have talked about a great deal. Naomi's women's championship reign has been uneventful at best. Natalya has never really gotten a fair run with the championship. I think in this match, it doesn't matter who wins, because I think Carmella cashes in her Money in the Bank and takes the title afterwards anyways. I guess if I have to pick a winner, it'll be Natalya, because then she can get a championship reign in the record books and then lose it immediately to Carmella, which I think is a horrible idea at this pay-per-view when you just had Baron Corbin cash in his opportunity, but that's what I think they're going to do. Neville challenging Akira Tozawa in the rematch for the Cruiserweight Championship. Normally I would say there's no chance Neville wins the championship back because they don't like to transition and bounce the belt back and forth, but I think people love title changes, and I think Neville is believable that he could easily beat Akira Tozawa. He was virtually unstoppable for months, so I actually project that Neville, I'm going with the upset. I know the odds makers have Akira Tozawa retaining. I'm going with the upset. Neville reclaims the Cruiserweight Championship from Akira Tozawa. In the Raw Women's Championship match, Alexa Bliss takes on Sasha Banks. This match has been done to death. I project that Bayley will cost Sasha Banks the Women's Championship, turning heel. Alexa Bliss will retain, and it will set up the Banks versus Bayley feud that we've been waiting to see for several months, going back to when we thought Sasha was going to be the one turning heel. This is the opportunity to do it on one of the biggest stages of the year, so that is my projection, that Bayley will turn heel, cost Sasha Banks the Women's Championship. In the WWE Championship match, Jinder Mahal versus Shinsuke Nakamura. This match is one I'm looking forward to purely because I believe that Nakamura is going to win his first WWE Championship. I first off think it's too soon. I don't think he should win the championship yet. From a booking sense perspective, I actually like the idea of Mahal retaining all the way till the Royal Rumble, but I don't see it happening. I don't think they're seeing the merchandise or the following in India that they expected, and I think that they're going to take the belt off of Mahal. I think Shinsuke Nakamura will walk away with the WWE Championship, and as a huge Nakamura fan, if you listen to this podcast, you know I love Nakamura. I love all the New Japan talents. I think Nakamura walks out world champion. It's a beautiful thing. I just think it's a little too soon. And in the main event, Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, and Samoa Joe. This is a very intriguing match, especially with the news that The Undertaker is on his way to New York City. I project that in this match, you're going to see Braun Strowman get knocked out of the ring. Samoa Joe will be battling with Braun Strowman, and Roman Reigns will hit a spear and be ready to defeat Brock Lesnar when we'll hear the gongs, and The Undertaker will cost Roman Reigns the WWE Universal Championship, and Brock Lesnar will retain the title and go on to face Braun Strowman at the next pay-per-view rather than seeing the championship change hands here. I do believe that at some point Brock Lesnar is going to lose that title, probably not until WrestleMania. I think they're going to let him keep it for a long time. The problem I have with that is they really need to get him on television more. If they're going to keep the belt on him, you got to make him more prominently featured on your main show. It's too much for him to always be off television. People want to see their world champion, and they're not getting that. So that is my prediction. That's all the time we have for this episode. Make sure you check back with us with our next episode. We'll cover all the news and rumors, go over what happened at the pay-per-views, what happens on Raw. Don't forget to shoot over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/ProWrestlingPodcast. If you want to become a Patreon member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, we would love to have you. Don't forget to send your questions, comments, concerns, anything you want us to cover to the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line at 267-642-1160. Share your thoughts with us. We'd love to get to as many of those as we can in every episode. Special thanks as always go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects we use throughout today's show. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. Be sure to shoot over to our website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life educational planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro, and I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. And if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to the Sports Junkies 101 to check out the latest articles on the world of professional wrestling. That's THA, the sportsjunkies101.com. Do a Google search. We'll find us there. Check out my latest article on the closing of the G1 Climax and future booking of New Japan Pro Wrestling, launched just yesterday. Until next episode, take care, everybody. Have a great day.